Did you know that the notion of beauty has been changed and maintained by social forces? Having a light skin, call it skin bleaching, is considered an important element in constructing female beauty. The dramatic desire for a light skin extends beyond Asian cultures and also exists in other non-white cultures like Africa, especially in societies that were previously colonized. Join us in unveiling the inimical forces behind using skin lightening products and its outcomes on the health of women and young girls.
Should live and who can die? 'Cause we work, we slave, while they...
So from my understanding or appreciation of skin bleaching or skin lightening is when people use cosmetic products or any other products to make their skin fairer than naturally it is. So I think that the intent and purpose of actually using the product is to look lighter and not, because sometimes some people it might be a side effect of, or it might be an effect of some cosmetic product, and all, but with not it being the primary intent. But I think when it comes to skin bleaching or skin lightening, the primary intent is actually to lighten the skin using those particular products. So I think some of the contributing factors are a bit more complicated, because it's something that we really have to trace the our beauty standards as society, like what makes a person beautiful. When you ask any person, commonly they talk about someone who's lighter being more beautiful.
Can see another world is possible.
I've gotten a number of ladies that have told me, you know what, when you're light skin, you look good, huh? Like even when you're moving, like you feel yourself. You feel like you can get anything. Yeah? Like even if a man sees you, they go like, she's
means you're not alone.
I remember growing up as a dark person, people used to make fun of my complexion, and they would say statement like, "Oh, you're a guy," because I think if you're a girl with your complexion, no one will marry you. And so imagine now with girls who are exposed to that and being constantly told that they're ugly because they are dark. And on top of that, you look at the pressure that we place on women because of the social construction, where a lot of the things revolve around their beauty, revolve around their how they look. Like if you look at some of the fairy tales and other things that people grow up reading, the story of Cinderella, what makes her stand out is she's beautiful, and that's why she gets the Prince Charming. When you talk about Snow White, they talk about her fair skin and all that. So you notice that a lot of kids are bombarded with um, such. Most of these sometimes are even Western constructs, but that's an we'll talk more on that. But you look at the standards that are coming because of social construction and gender stereotypes. They put a lot of pressure on the women.
So we walk, we march, we run for the world we want. So we walk, we march, we run. So we walk, we march, we run.
From my understanding of the term colorism, I stand to be corrected. Um, is so when you're talking about racism, it's usually talking about people of different races. But when you're now talking about colorism, when you're now looking at within that same race, like within the black community, you find people of different skin complexions. You find people who are, so I think colorism, that's when now there are people who now enjoy certain privilege just because of their skin color, like their skin tone rather. Let's say, for example, you look at the modeling industry, you look at commercials and other people. Like you'd find that most of the people who make it on the billboards, most of the black people who make it who used to make it, because things are now changing in the leading roles in movies and all, where people who were fairer, with a fairer skin, were lighter. So you see on billboards, in commercials, modeling, and other places, people who were lighter skinned had a higher chance of getting that. And there were even biases towards even in how we approach. I mentioned earlier about the biases that people had as far as uh, perceiving beauty, where they say a light-skinned person is more beautiful than a darker-skinned person. So already that resulted in some form of privilege enjoyed by people of a certain skin, of a fairer skin, just because of how people perceive them, and not because of how society was now constructed. Because the thing is, sometimes it doesn't end with just perception, but that perception ends up influences biases, be it biases in job interviews, biases in selection, which result in selections and other things, which results in those people having a better chance than others. So some of these are unconscious biases that create like a sort of form of privilege that people have. So as a result, you now find that there now becomes that whole discrimination where if a person who's darker now, they are now perceived as ugly. They're not discriminated on. They are now made fun of. They're now, because already they're not meeting the standards of what's perceived as beautiful. They're not meeting the standards of what's looked up at. So they are now looked down upon. So I think that's I think that whole this whole dynamics for me is what colorism constitutes. And I think superficially then it just comes out as discriminating a person just because of the color of their skin. I mean, even on a continental level, people I used to grow up people saying, "Oh, people from certain countries because are poorer because they are darker," or something like that. Some statements that you reflect on right now. Say you try to figure out what they really mean, but you start noticing that no, it was just biases. It was just um things that we were social, that we had internalized growing up because of that. Yeah.
Companies or fields that involve a lot of exposure, a lot of beauty, a lot of factors of appearance and beauty, they kind of want to demoralize. Like, people will lose their esteem because they are not light skinned, they are not very good looking, or someone will actually go a step ahead, bleach their skin color to fit in.
Some made up money game with the real.
My dad used to brag about marrying my mom who's lighter, and he used to say that we should follow his footsteps and look for lighter spouses, because they say that if you marry someone darker, your child will be dark and no one will marry them. So these are some of the things that we internalize from the beginning as society, and they stem their roots from a lot of complicated historical issues. So it's an intersection of a lot of issues, the intersection of the gender stereotypes and the gender roles and expectations that we have, particularly on women as far as beauty standards are concerned.
ali mwirugavu ngaye bw'oba mu baino omweru akuba nobona abairugala oti sepiki senior zena nakuba nti genda kwira ku muki mubeeru nesiiga ebizigo n'atandika okunirira ti ensalawo n'abuuza kwesiiga mbe nga mweru zena nkola ntya najja ku iduuka bamusomesa ati otaamu kino ne kino wakola ki wanirira natandika okwesiiga era nakola ki nanirira nga bwendi era buti kyenfaako bigere bino yendifaako eno aye omubiri nirira kyenaye endera yemba mu banange bandetanga ne mukyala muki mulungi era onirira oli mwirugavu ng'era ekala yendimu namboneka bulungi aye bwe nalinga mu banange nga bansoomoza kwegamba beeru baniye bakati bwena gyeri abakyala leero mulembe gwaki gwakunirira kyusaako kwesiige kwakazigo kano era kunirira nomulembe gwakunirira wena gwa mukalade edudolimu natandika okwesiiga nanirira lwakuba nti banange bankola ki bandogereranga ino natwala ero omulembe guno gwakunirira n'abasaada batubona weifaayo imwe mubaawo ife abasaada abeeru batubona abakazi abaki abeeru era niyemba nti musaada wange njiye ku byali yakola alaga ku banne banange mukyala wange obuyatusibwa myaka otulimba oyo ti mukyala wati mukyala wange era edda yendi yandaga baine kuba zeenaamo nange anenda excess nga bwe twali inumere nga taninda bulungi abuti bwe neesiiga ebizigo ningenda mbala nirira yandaga baine.
Like there's always a statement that Cabrera Jones always uses, which says that white man's ice is always colder, where so it means that So at the end of the day, you find, yes, a lot of our standards that are perceived to be better, whiteness is considered to be better. So we all aspire to be like that. So our standards our standards, and a lot of our conscious biases are influenced by that. Then I think it also could be an issue of even some direct structures that were put in during the colonial era. Because when you look at apartheid, sometimes I use apartheid, but even if we in Zimbabwe, you'd notice that growing up, we used to be told there was the low density suburbs where the white people lived. Then there were areas where people of a mixed race were lived. Then there were areas where black people lived. So you notice those dynamics. So at the end of the day, so even growing up, for me, when I saw mixed race people who are like in other countries who are considered as black, I always, because of their skin, they used to be perceived as more superior in a way. It's also because of that whole structure that we had, because they were like the structure that was put in during that time put them at a certain level, and put black people like on the lowest level. Then even growing up, I had my aunts were very, my mom's side of families, some of them are very light skinned. So people always say, oh no, she looks like she's mixed race, and it was made in a way of the statement was mentioned in a way of admiration. So yes, so I guess there's the internalized aspect, then there's the deliberate social structures that were put in place that sort of contributed to us having maybe that contributed to colorism, contributed. But this is, I guess, there are also other factors that I might not be aware of that could have also played a role in all of that.
Friend who she was intending to marry, and because this boyfriend was more of light skinned, and he had one family where he was okay, the family is white and another family is black, the differences in their parents. So this girl had this fear in her that maybe she would go to the white side of the boyfriend, and she's maybe, you know, despised, she's not appreciated because of her skin color. She was actually my, like, we kind of looked,
The tone.
yeah, the tone of my color was actually the same as hers, and right now she's a white, literally she's a white.
So she used the product.
She made that step because she wanted to fit in the society, or she wanted to fit in that family where she was intending to get married in, and the tone of her color was not fitting, so she had to change her skin color.
Yes.
I am sure the boyfriend, he first saw her with her original
Yes.
skin color.
They-
But I feel it's like the conscience of this lady
The
that
lady.
forced her to fit in the family of the boyfriend, and what? She's not comfortable with her skin color because of the other side, and so she wants to fit
So
in,
you
and the
feel
best way to fit in is changing her skin color.
Would that be like she felt inferior to the?
Absolutely. She
Okay.
felt inferior, and she had to do something to fit in,
Okay.
something like that. And I have a feeling it has happened so very many times, only that I may be certain about that very incident. It has happened. Someone has a circle of friends, and friends are light skinned, and maybe they're boyfriends, and out of nowhere, impulse gets you to do something you're not even ready to do.